Welcome, curious minds, to the Uncanny Valley podcast. Imagine peering into the distant future, not just years ahead, but, well, millennia. What kind of world would you even find? What would humanity become? Today, we're embarking on a pretty extraordinary journey through time. Our guide, H.G. Wells' classic, The Time Machine, and its singular, audacious vision. Our aim is really to unpack the time traveler's remarkable account. We'll cover everything from his groundbreaking theory of a fourth dimension right through to his terrifying discoveries way, way beyond our present era.
Yeah, our mission today is to distill the most profound insights from this really seminal work. We'll explore the time traveler's initial sort of utopian hopes for humanity, but then we'll confront the shocking realities he faces and what this whole narrative reveals about our own societal paths, maybe even the nature of existence itself. Because this isn't just a story, is it? It's more like a series of philosophical thought experiments played out across millions of years. Really makes you question what progress even means.
Absolutely. Get ready for a mind-bending exploration. It's definitely going to challenge your assumptions about progress, evolution, and maybe, just maybe, your own place in time. Because, as you're about to hear, the future is rarely, if ever, quite what we expect.
The audacious concept of time as the fourth dimension.
Okay, so our journey doesn't start in the future, surprisingly. It begins right here, well, back then, in the time traveler's home. It's this cozy, intellectually vibrant setting. You can almost feel it, can't you?
Yeah.
That luxurious after-dinner atmosphere, the warmth, the soft lights, and those chairs.
Ah, yes, the chairs. His own patents, apparently. They embraced and caressed us rather than submitted to be sat upon. Sets a scene of real comfort, but also ingenuity, right?
Exactly. And our protagonist, the time traveler himself, he's described with these pale gray eyes, shone and twinkled, and his usually pale face flushed and animated. He's just buzzing with energy for his ideas.
And that setting is so important. It's not some sterile lab. It's this intimate gathering. You've got guests like Philby, an argumentative person with red hair, and the psychologist. These are his peers. He's not just showing off a gadget here. He's, as Wells puts it, expounding a recondite matter to us. He's positioning himself not just as an inventor, but as a philosopher, ready to challenge everything they think they know.
He really is, and he doesn't waste any time. He hits them straight away with this bombshell. The geometry taught you at school is founded on a misconception. Talk about starting strong.
It's a direct assault on their basic understanding of reality. He's asking, what if time isn't just this thing that happens around us? What if it's actually part of us, part of every object? He argues that, mathematical concepts like lines, planes, even cubes, if you define them as having zero thickness or zero duration in time, well, they don't have any real existence.
So, they're just abstract ideas.
Precisely. He says any real body must have extension in four directions. It must have length, breadth, thickness, and duration. And that, he declares, is really what is meant by the fourth dimension. Essentially, time is just another spatial dimension. It's just the one our consciousness happens to be moving along, always forward. It's a radical idea for his Victorian audience.
It really is. So time is just another road, like forwards or sideways. But, okay, why are we stuck on this one-way street? That's the immediate question, isn't it? Why can't we just, turn around in time? And you can sense his frustration when he complains that some foolish people have got hold of the wrong side of that idea. He seems genuinely annoyed it's not obvious to everyone.
He totally anticipates that pushback. And he uses some really clever analogies to try and bridge that gap. He mentions Professor Simon Newcomb's work.
Ah, the mathematician.
Yeah, explaining how you can represent a 3D object on a flat 2D surface. He uses that to suggest how a four-dimensional being, like a person existing through time, might appear in our limited three-dimensional view. It's about perspective.
And he gives that great example with the portraits, right? A portrait of a man at 8 years old, another at 15, another at 17, another at 23.
Exactly. He calls these three-dimensional representations of his four-dimension being, which is a fixed and unalterable thing.
So, each portrait is just a snapshot, a single frame, but the real person is the whole movie reel of their life through time.
That's a great way to put it. The whole trajectory is the real thing. And he uses another analogy, too, the weather record.
Oh, yeah, the barometer line.
Right. He traces the line showing the barometer's movement over time. He asks, okay, this line wasn't drawn in length, breadth, or thickness, was it? But certainly, it traced such a line. And that line, therefore, we must conclude, was along the time dimension. He's making time tangible, a measurable path.
Okay, that makes sense. It makes it feel less abstract, but still the big question remains. The objection everyone must have had.
Why cannot we move in time as we move about in the other dimensions of space?
Exactly. If it's a dimension, why the restrictions? Why only forward?
And he's ready for that. He flips it back on them. Are you so sure we can move freely in space? He asks. He points out limitations, like gravity. Before balloons or planes, moving up and down wasn't exactly free choice, was it?
Good point. We're bound by physics even in space.
So he argues, maybe it's the same with time, our mental existences, as he calls them, are just naturally passing along the time dimension with a uniform velocity from the cradle to the grave. We are moving in time, just consistently forward.
Okay, I see where he's going. And this is where the abstract idea starts to become, mechanical.
This is the leap. He says, just like civilized man built balloons to move up against gravitation, defying that natural limit.
He thinks maybe we could do the same with time.
Precisely. He suggests we might ultimately be able to stop or accelerate his drift along the time dimension, or even turn about and travel the other way. And that, he says dramatically, is the germ of my great discovery.
Wow. From philosophy to engineering just like that. The seed of the time machine itself.
And the reactions from his guests are just perfect, aren't they? So human. Philby, the argumentative one, just flat out says it's against reason.
Typical skepticism.
Right. Well, the psychologist immediately sees a practical use.
Yep, for historians. Travel back and verify the accepted account of the Battle of Hastings. Knowledge seeking.
But the very young man, he goes straight for the profit motive.
Yes. One might invest all one's money and hurry on ahead. Greed and power, the instant reactions. It shows the immediate human desires time travel unlocks in people's minds. Skepticism, knowledge, power, wealth. It's all there.
It really sets the stage for the kind of temptations and dangers his journey will explore, doesn't it? Human nature laid bare.
The first leap and a shocking return.
Okay, so after laying out this mind-bending theory, the time traveler disappears into his lab for a moment.
And he comes back holding this thing.
Yeah, a glittering metallic framework, scarcely larger than a small clock and very delicately made. Wells describes ivory in it, some transparent crystalline substance. It's intricate, beautiful even. It's the model machine. Not the real deal yet, but enough to make his point, he hopes. He explains the levers, one for future, one for past.
And the tiny saddle? The seat of a time traveler makes it seem real.
He's very insistent they take it seriously, though. He says something like, I don't want to waste this model and then be told I'm a quack. He needs their buy-in, or at least their focus.
And then, the big moment. He actually gets the psychologist to press the lever, talk about audience participation.
And bam, it happens. There was a breath of wind, and the lamp flame jumped. A candle blows out.
And the little machine suddenly swung around, became indistinct, was seen as a ghost for a second perhaps, and was gone, vanished. Just like that. Empty table.
Imagine being there. The reactions are priceless. Philby just blurts out, he was damned. Like it's witchcraft or something.
While the psychologist, ever the scientist, even after seeing it vanish, apparently looks under the table, still searching for a trick.
It shows how hard it is to accept the truly impossible, doesn't it? Your brain just scrambles for a rational explanation.
And the psychologist tries to provide one, right, about it moving too fast through time to be seen properly.
Yeah, he speculates. If it is traveling through time 50 times or 100 times faster than we are, the impression it creates will, of course, be only 1/50th or 100th.
It's a logical attempt to explain the visually impossible. Clever, but still grasping at straws.
But the time traveler isn't done. The model vanishing is just the warm-up act. He then tells them,
I have a big machine nearly finished in there, and when that is put together, I mean to have a journey on my own account. Whoa! Okay, so the model was just proof of concept. He's actually going to do it.
and the description of the full-size machine sounds much more substantial.
Oh, yeah. Parts were of nickel, parts of ivory, parts had certainly been filed or sawn out of rock crystal. Coarse, it seemed to be. It sounds solid, heavy, real, not just a delicate framework. This is serious engineering.
Okay, fast forward a week. It's the next Thursday dinner gathering. Guests arrive, but no time traveler. Right. The medical man reads a note from him. Something like, he's unavoidably detained. He asks me to lead off with dinner at 7 if he's not back. Just very casual, but odd. Where is he?
The tension must have been building. Annoyance, maybe worry.
And then suddenly the door opens and he appears, but he's a wreck.
How does Wells describe it? An amazing plight.
Yeah, his coat was dusty and dirty and smeared with green down the sleeves, his hair disordered, and as it seemed to me, grayer. He looked older almost.
His face was ghastly pale. His chin had a brown cut on it, a cut half healed. His expression was haggard and drawn as by intense suffering, and his feet.
Nothing on them but a pair of tattered, blood-stained socks, just utterly ravaged. This isn't someone who just popped out to the shops. He's been through hell.
But even then, some guests try to rationalize it away. The journalist asks if he's been doing the amateur cadger, like pretending to be poor.
And the editor jokes, haven't they any clothes brushes in the future? Still trying to dismiss it, find a mundane explanation. Disbelief is a powerful thing.
But the time traveler, he just needs food, ravenous. And then he confirms it, right through a mouthful of mutton.
Yes. He says he has been time traveling. He's lived 8 days, such days as no human being ever lived before. He's clearly traumatized, overwhelmed. He demands they let him tell the story straight through, no interruptions.
He needs to unload it all. And then later, as if his appearance wasn't enough, he provides that first bit of physical evidence.
Ah, the flowers. Such a small, quiet detail, but so powerful. He pauses his story, reaches into his pocket.
And produces 2 withered flowers, not unlike very large white mallows, placing them on the table. Silent proof.
And they're weird flowers. The medical man, the scientific guy, examines them and says, the geniecium's odd. That's the female part of the flower. He admits, I certainly don't know the natural order of these flowers. They're biologically alien.
And the time traveler simply says,
They were put into my pocket by Weena when I traveled into time. Weena, a name from the future. And these strange, withered flowers are the tangible link. Suddenly, the impossible story feels disturbingly real.
into the golden age first impressions and misconceptions.
Okay, so now we get the story. The time traveler finally sits in the full-scale machine, pulls the lever. What was the journey itself like?
Utterly disorienting and, frankly, terrifying. He describes this nightmare sensation of falling. Familiar things warp bizarrely. His housekeeper, Mrs. Watchett, seems to shoot across the room like a rocket as he departs that moment.
Time speeds up dramatically.
Night followed day like the flapping of a black wing. The sun becomes this frantic thing, hopping swiftly across the sky, leaping at every minute. Imagine seeing centuries flash by like seconds. It sounds almost nauseating.
And the visual effects he describes, intense.
Extremely. The twinkling succession of darkness and light was excessively painful to the eye. The world outside becomes a blur. Landscapes are misty and vague.
He sees trees growing and changing like puffs of vapor.
Exactly. Forests appearing and disappearing instantly. Huge buildings rise and fall like dreams. He's witnessing geological time, architectural history compressed into this dizzying visual stream. He mentions hitting speeds of over a year a minute, snow flashes, spring bursts, all in moments.
But stopping, that carried its own huge risk, right?
A massive risk.
Yeah.
He worried about materializing inside something solid. The peculiar risk lay in the possibility of my finding some substance in the space which I or the machine occupied.
Like merging with a rock or a wall?
Yeah, causing a profound chemical reaction, possibly a far-reaching explosion. Just instant catastrophic integration with future matter. A truly terrifying thought.
So finally he decides to stop. What happens?
It's abrupt, a clap of thunder, and suddenly he's hit by pitiless hail. He's arrived, the year, 802,701 AD.
Wow. And the setting.
He finds himself on a little lawn in a garden surrounded by rhododendron bushes, but looming nearby is this colossal figure like a winged sphinx made of white marble. Ancient, imposing, slightly ominous.
And his first thoughts aren't exactly optimistic, are they?
Not at all. His immediate fear is, what if cruelty had grown into a common passion? What if the race had lost its manliness and had developed into something inhuman, unsympathetic, and overwhelmingly powerful? He's bracing himself for monsters.
But what he finds is different.
Very different. He sees a group of figures clad in rich, soft robes. One approaches this slight creature, perhaps 4 feet high-clad in a purple tunic. They are, he notes, very beautiful and graceful, but indescribably frail.
Frail. That's the key word. Not powerful, not cruel, but delicate.
Extremely delicate. And they show no fear of him. They speak in a strange and very sweet and liquid tongue, touch him curiously with soft little tentacles, almost like confirming he's real.
Yeah, he describes them as having a Dresden China type of prettiness.
Yeah, very uniform look. Curly hair, no facial hair, small features, large gentle eyes, almost doll-like. But what strikes him most is their lack of the interest he expected. Their curiosity seems shallow, fleeting, almost childlike.
And their behavior seems to reinforce that, smiling and speaking in soft, cooing notes.
They can't seem to grasp complex ideas. They think he came from the sun during the storm. It's a very naive, simplistic worldview. They even give him flower garlands, treating him like some kind of curiosity or maybe a harmless visitor.
So based on this first impression, he starts to build a theory about this future, his golden age idea.
Right. He sees these grand, palace-like buildings, though they're somewhat dilapidated, a ruinous splendor, no small houses, just these huge communal structures. This makes him think, communism, a society where everything is shared, needs are met.
And the uniformity of the people, the Eloi, fits into that.
He thinks so.
Yeah.
All had the same form of costume, the same soft, hairless visage, and the same girlish rotundity of limb. He figures this must be the result of achieving perfect comfort and security. Evolution just stopped needing strong distinctions.
His logic is, strength is the outcome of need, security sets a premium on feebleness.
Exactly. If you've completely conquered nature, eliminated struggle, then things like physical strength, courage, aggression, they become useless, maybe even inconvenient. Physical courage and the love of battle may even be hindrances to a civilized man.
No need for hard work, no diseases to fight, maybe even family structures dissolved because the dangers that necessitated them are gone.
That's his initial thinking. Humanity finally achieved peace and security, but the cost was, well, regression.
He concludes, quite chillingly, this has ever been the fate of energy and security. It takes to art and to eroticism, and then come languor and decay. He thinks humanity is just winding down.
Yeah, upon the wane. They've broken the hateful grindstone of struggle, but in doing so, they've lost their vitality, their intelligence. It's a peaceful, beautiful, but ultimately stagnant and decaying utopia. A pretty stark warning about the potential downsides of perfect comfort.
A flawed paradise. But, as we know, his theory is about to be completely overturned.
The unsettling truth Morlocks and the great fear.
Right, this is where everything changes for the time traveler. His comfortable golden age theory just evaporates. What happens?
Panic sets in. He goes back to where he landed, and the time machine, it's gone. Vanished from the lawn.
And that Sphinx statue.
It suddenly seems menacing. It seemed to smile in mockery of his dismay. His lifeline, his only way back, is missing. He's stranded. 800,000 years in the future. Pure terror.
But he figures out it wasn't taken through time, right?
Yeah, he quickly realizes he'd removed the levers, so no one could operate it temporally. It must have just been moved in space. His suspicion immediately falls on the Sphinx's pedestal.
He sees clues.
Yes, a groove ripped in the turf leading towards it, and these queer, narrow footprints like those I could imagine made by a sloth. Something dragged it, something not quite human-looking. He deduces it must be hidden inside the hollow pedestal.
And when he tries to get the Eloi to help him open it, their reaction is weird.
Very weird and disturbing. They behaved very oddly. Went off as if they had received the last possible insult. They recoil in horror or disgust. It's not just unhelpfulness, it's active avoidance. They know something, and they're terrified of it.
This is the first major crack in their innocent facade. Then he starts noticing other strange things.
The wells. These peculiar features scattered everywhere, circular wells of a very great depth, rimmed with bronze, and there's activity down there.
Some bush. Air currents?
Exactly. He hears a constant thud, 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 like the beating of some big engine, and he feels a steady current of air sent down the shafts, strong enough to pull paper down, clearly some kind of subterranean ventilation system. But why? For what purpose?
The mystery deepens.
Yeah.
And then he has that encounter in the ruins.
Yeah, away from the Eloy's gardens, in a darker, more dilapidated building. He catches a glimpse of something watching him.
A pair of eyes, luminous by reflection against the daylight without.
Just eyes at first.
Then something white ran past me. A fleeting shape, completely unlike the colorful, delicate Eloi.
And he gets a better look. He does. He describes a queer little ape-like figure, its head held down in a peculiar manner. It's dull white, has strange, large, grayish-red eyes sensitive to light, and flaxen hair on its head and down its back.
Definitely not an Eloi.
Not even close. And the creature seems panicked by the daylight, scurrying away and vanishing down one of those wells, revealing metal foot and hand rests forming a kind of ladder.
Right.
An underworld creature.
And the horrifying realization dawns on him.
Instantly. Man had not remained one species, but had differentiated into two distinct animals. The beautiful Eloi weren't the whole story. This bleached, obscene, nocturnal thing was also heir to all the ages. These are the Morlocks.
A complete split in the human species. It's chilling.
And their adaptations make perfect, terrifying sense. The bleached look from living in darkness, the large eyes, common features of nocturnal things, their obvious discomfort in sunlight. They've evolved for the underworld.
And he immediately connects this biological split to social division in his own time.
Yes, it's a powerful piece of social commentary from Wells. He speculates it's the ultimate result of the gradual widening of the present, merely temporary and social difference between the capitalist and the laborer.
So the rich pushed the workers underground over millennia.
That's his theory. The wealthy haves secured the surface, the sunlight pursuing pleasure. The have-nots, the workers, were pushed deeper and deeper into larger and ever larger underground factories, eventually adapting completely to that subterranean existence.
Above ground, you must have the haves. Below ground, the have-nots. A permanent biological class system.
It's a truly terrifying extrapolation of Victorian and arguably modern social stratification, evolution driven by economic disparity.
And then comes the most ghastly realization of all. The relationship between the Eloi and the Morlocks.
It's the ultimate horror. He connects the docks, the Morlocks' machinery, the ventilation, the meat he glimpsed underground. The Eloi are not masters. They are mere fatted cattle, which the ant-like Morlocks preserved and preyed upon, probably saw to the breeding of.
So the Eloi are livestock, raised by the descendants of the workers they pushed underground.
Exactly. The ultimate reversal of fortune. The beautiful surface dwellers are just food for the subterranean Morlocks. The idyllic gardens are, in fact, a farm.
Unbelievably grim. But amidst this, he forms a connection with one Eloi, Weena.
Yeah, he saves her from drowning, and they form this queer friendship which lasted a week. It's a small touch of warmth, of connection in this utterly bleak landscape. Shows that some spark of affection can still exist.
And Weena provides a crucial insight, doesn't she? About the Eloi's fear.
She does. He notices she dreaded the dark, dreaded shadows, dreaded black things. Darkness to her was the one thing dreadful. This explains why they huddle together in the big buildings at night. They're terrified. Their daytime paradise vanishes at sunset.
And those white figures he sometimes saw at dawn, thinking they were ghosts.
Now he understands. They were Morlocks, caught out in the half-light, retreating underground. They rule the night.
It explains the great fear between the two species.
A fear born from history. Ages ago, man had thrust his brother man out of the ease and the sunshine, and now that brother was coming back, changed. The Eloi, having forgotten struggle, were becoming reacquainted with fear. A primal terror their ancestors had inflicted now returned upon them.
Seeking answers and tools in a ruined world.
Okay, so the time traveler now understands the horrifying reality. The Eloi are cattle, the Morlocks are predators. His perspective must shift dramatically.
Completely. He's no longer a detached observer studying curious future. He's prey. Survival kicks in. He states very clearly, I at least would defend myself.
His priorities change.
Instantly. Without further delay, I determined to make myself arms and a fastness where I might sleep. He needs two things urgently. Some means of fire, because the Morlocks fear light, and a battering ram to smash open the Sphinx pedestal and get his machine back.
So he sets off to find these things. Where does he go?
He heads towards a huge, distant structure they saw earlier, the Palace of Green Porcelain. Weena goes with him.
What's it like?
It's vast, ancient, deserted, and falling into ruin. It has an oriental look, made of this greenish porcelain material, much grander and more complex than the Eloi's simpler palaces, clearly from a different, more advanced time.
And inside, he recognizes it, doesn't he?
Yes, with a jolt. It's a museum. He finds skeletons of creatures like the Megatherium, the giant sloth, and even a brontosaurus. But then he sees old, familiar glass cases of our own time. Relics from the 19th century.
He realizes it's like a future version of a major museum from his era.
Exactly. The ruins of some latter-day South Kensington, like the Natural History or Science Museum in London. It's a graveyard of past knowledge, a monument to forgotten science and history. Incredibly poignant.
He notes the decay, how nature is reclaiming it.
Yeah, the inevitable process of decay is relentless. He also sees signs of the Eloi rare fossils broken to pieces or threaded in strings upon reeds. They interact with these relics like children with trinkets, having no idea of their significance.
But he also sees signs of the Morlocks.
More disturbingly, yes. Whole display cases have been bodily removed by the Morlocks. Why? What use could they have for museum exhibits? It adds another layer of unsettling mystery to them.
So he starts searching for useful things, specifically in the chemistry section.
Right, the Gallery of Technical Chemistry. He's hoping to find something flammable, something to make fire.
And he gets incredibly lucky.
Unbelievably lucky, a true eureka moment. He finds a box of matches, and miraculously they were perfectly good. They were not even damp after 800,000 years. It's almost unbelievable, crucial for his survival.
Finds anything else useful?
Yes, camphor in a sealed jar. He tests it, and it burnt with a good, bright flame. Was, in fact, an excellent candle.
Yeah.
Light and potential fire starters. Huge discoveries.
And then he finds a weapon.
Well, he improvises one. He sees a machine from which projected a lever not unlike those in a signal box. He manages to break it off.
A makeshift mace.
Pretty much. He rejoins Weena with a mace in my hand, more than sufficient for any Morlock skull I might encounter. And he admits something quite chilling about his mindset now.
What's that?
I longed very much to kill a Morlock or so. He acknowledges how inhuman that sounds, wanting to kill his own descendants, but says it was impossible somehow to feel any humanity in the things. Survival instinct has completely taken over. He's become primal.
So now he has matches, camphor for light, and a weapon. He feels ready.
More ready, definitely. More confident. He decides not to risk sleeping in the decaying palace. His new plan is to pass the night in the open, protected by a fire. He feels equipped finally to face the Morlocks and eventually the Sphinx doors. A fragile sense of control returns.
The forest fire and a heartbreaking loss.
Okay, so he has the tools, he has a plan. Find an open space, build a fire, survive the night. He heads out of the Palace of Green Porcelain with Weena.
Right. The goal is to push through a dark wood towards a bare hillside where a fire would be safer to manage, but he's in a bad state.
How so?
He says he was without sleep for a night and 2 days, and I was feverish and irritable. Critically exhausted, he feels sleep coming upon me and the Morlocks with it. Utterly vulnerable.
And the danger isn't just potential, is it? They're being followed.
Almost immediately, among the black bushes behind us, I saw 3 crouching figures. Morlocks. They're already stalking him in the twilight. The forest is their territory.
He's carrying firewood he gathered in the museum, and then he makes a decision he deeply regrets.
His atrocious folly, he calls it. Instead of ditching the wood to move faster or just saving it for the campsite, he decides to light some of it now.
Why? To scare them off?
Partly to amaze our friends behind by lighting it. A bit of bravado, maybe. But also it highlights something incredible.
That fire itself is forgotten.
Completely. The art of fire-making had been forgotten on the earth? Weena's reaction proves it. When the fire flares up, she wanted to run to it and play with it. She has no concept of its danger, only its beauty. It shows how far the Eloi have fallen.
So they plunge deeper into the woods, it gets darker, and the Morlocks get closer.
Yeah, the pattering grew more distinct. He hears their queer sound and voices. Then the physical contact begins. In another minute, I felt a tug at my coat, then something at my arm.
And Weena.
Rena shivered violently and became quite still. Paralyzed by fear, the Morlocks are swarming them in the darkness.
He describes their touch. It's horrifying.
Soft little hands, creeping over my coat and back, touching even my neck. Imagine that feeling in pitch darkness. He frantically lights a match.
Does it work?
Momentarily. The sudden light reveals the white backs of the Morlocks in flight amid the trees. They recoil from it. He then lights the camphor, which split and flared up and drove back the Morlocks in the shadows.
It's only a temporary reprieve.
Totally. He senses movement all around him. The wood behind seemed full of the stir and murmur of a great company. He's heavily outnumbered.
And in the chaos, the fighting, the flickering light, he loses his bearings.
Completely disoriented. I had no idea in what direction lay my path. He might even be heading back the way he came. Lost in the dark, surrounded by predators.
He tries to check on Weena.
But she lay like one dead. He can't even tell if she's breathing. All around, Morlock eyes shone like carbuncles in the blackness, waiting.
Then the camphor runs out.
Pitch darkness again. He lights another precious match. Just in time, 2 white forms that had been approaching Weena dashed hastily away.
One comes right at him.
Yeah, blinded by the light. I felt his bones grind under the blow of my fist. He's fighting desperately, brutally now, pure survival.
And then the fire he started earlier. When he lit out of folly.
It becomes the real monster. He sees the flames of the burning forest. It was my first fire coming after me. His own weapon turned against him, consuming the woods, trapping him.
He searches for Weena in the chaos, the smoke, the heat.
But she was gone. He realizes with horror and grief they had left her poor little body in the forest. The Morlocks or the fire. She didn't make it.
The loss hits him hard, even recounting it later.
Absolutely. It seemed an overwhelming calamity, he says, back in his familiar room. It is more like the sorrow of a dream than an actual loss. But that morning it left me absolutely lonely again. Terribly alone. That connection, however brief, was real. Its loss is devastating.
A truly heartbreaking moment. But there's one tiny sliver of luck amidst the disaster.
Almost unbelievably, yes. He checks his pockets later. In my trouser pocket were still some loose matches. The box must have leaked before it was lost. His survival again hangs by the thinnest thread, a few stray matches.
The further future and the end of life.
Okay, so he survived the fire but lost Weena. He makes his way back to the Sphinx, his only hope of escape. What does he find?
Something both relieving and deeply unnerving. The brain valves were open. They had slid down into grooves. The way is clear. And inside sits the time machine.
But it's not quite as he left it.
No, it's been carefully oiled and cleaned. The Morlocks didn't just hide it. They seem to have examined it, maybe tried to understand it. And leaving the doors open, he realizes it's a trap.
They anticipated he'd come back for it.
Exactly. He notes their mental operations, their cunning. They lured him inside. He actually chuckled gleefully for a second, thinking he could just light his matches and fend them off while he escaped.
But he overlooked something crucial about the matches.
The worst possible oversight. They're safety matches. Of that abominable kind that light only on the box. And the box is gone, lost in the fire or the forest. He's trapped in the dark pedestal with the Morlocks closing in and no way to make light.
It must have been terrifying. Close quarters, total darkness.
Absolutely horrific. The little brutes were close upon me. One touched me. He feels one hand upon me and then another. He has to physically fight against their persistent fingers for my levers, even butt in the dark with his head to get control, hearing a Morlock skull ring as he hits one. It's a frantic, claustrophobic struggle for his life.
But he manages it. He gets the levers.
Just barely. He throws the lever forward, escaping the trap. But in his panic, he pushes it too far, setting himself not just back toward his own time, but much further into the future.
A second unintentional journey forward.
And this one is far more terrifying. Days and nights blur again, accelerating through millennia, then centuries per second. He's plunging towards the very end of the Earth.
What does he see? How does the world change?
Drastically. The sun grew ever broader and more red, losing its heat and light, becoming this huge, dull, dying star that eventually halted motionless upon the horizon.
The Earth stopped rotating.
Seems so. Tidally locked with the dying sun. One side in perpetual twilight, the other maybe frozen darkness. The moon is gone. The stars are faint, creeping points of light. It's the end stages of the solar system.
And the landscape. Utterly desolate.
Completely. The sky is inky black in one direction, deep Indian red and starless overhead, and glowing starlit near the bloated sun. The rocks are reddish, eroded. The only vegetation is this weird, intensely green lichenous plants. And the air.
Thin. Hard to breathe.
Yeah, more rarefied.
Yeah.
It hurts his lungs. The planet itself is dying.
And life. What's left? Not Eloy or Morlocks, surely. Long gone. He hears a harsh scream, sees a huge white butterfly, some kind of mutated survivor. But then, something truly monstrous emerges from the dying sea.
The crab creatures.
Yes, a monstrous crab-like creature, as large as yonder table. Huge, slow, alien, with many legs moving slowly, big claws swaying, long antennae feeling the air, stalked eyes gleaming. This is what life has become. Primal, armored, scavenging on a dying world.
He calls it abominable desolation.
It's the perfect description. The red eastern sky, the northward blackness, the salt Dead Sea, the stony beach crawling with these foul, slow-stirring monsters, the uniform, poisonous-looking green, the thin air. It's a vision of utter cosmic horror. Entropy made manifest.
But he goes even further, pushes on.
He does. 30 million years into the future. An almost inconceivable time span. The sun is even bigger, dimmer, redder, covering nearly a 10th part of the darkling heavens.
Are the crabs still there? No. They're gone too. The beach is lifeless, except for the green slime. It's getting colder. A bitter cold assailed me. Rare white flakes ever again came eddying down. Snow, ice forming at the edges of the still dark ocean.
And the silence.
Absolute, profound. All the sounds of man, the bleating of sheep, the cries of birds, the hum of insects, the stir that makes the background of our lives, all that was over. Just utter crushing silence. Then a solar eclipse begins, plunging everything into rayless obscurity. The sky was absolutely black. The final darkness.
But he sees one last living thing.
In that final moment of twilight, yes. Something hopping near the blood-red water. A round thing the size of a football, perhaps. Tentacles trailed down from it. It seemed black, hopping fitfully about.
What was it?
Who knows? the final grotesque survivor on a dead planet. The sight is so alien, so horrifying, combined with the thin air and the cosmic dread that he just faints, overwhelmed by the sheer terror of the end of the world.
The return home and lingering doubts.
So he faints at the literal end of the world. But eventually, he comes to, presumably, and manages to pull the lever back towards his own time.
Yes, thank goodness, he makes the return journey. And the reversal of the apocalyptic decay must have been an incredible relief. The blinking succession of the days and nights was resumed. The sun got golden again, the sky blue, life returning to the universe, visually at least.
And he experiences that strange detail with his housekeeper again, Mrs. Watchett.
Right. As he passes back through the exact moment of his departure, he sees her gliding quietly up the laboratory, back foremost, and disappearing behind the door. It's time running in reverse, perfectly captured, a subtle but brilliant confirmation of the machine's reality.
He finally lands back in his lab. Is it changed?
Remarkably, no. It's exactly as it had been. Same clutter, same equipment, except the machine itself isn't where he started. It's moved from the southeast corner to the northwest.
Proof the Morlocks did move it inside the Sphinx.
Exactly. Tangible evidence that his journey wasn't just a dream or hallucination. And he finds more proof. The newspaper, the Pall Mall Gazette, dated for that very day. He's truly back.
So he cleans himself up, joins his waiting guests, and tells them this incredible, horrifying story we've just gone through. How do they react?
Predictably, with disbelief. The editor flat out calls it a gaudy lie. Others are just incredulous, skeptical, they can't wrap their heads around it.
Even the time traveler himself seems to struggle with it back in his familiar surroundings.
Yeah, he admits, I hardly believe it myself. And yet, the sheer ordinariness of his study, the atmosphere of every day, almost makes the horrors he witnessed feel unreal, dreamlike, trauma and reality colliding.
But he has the flowers, the physical proof.
The withered white flowers from 800 and 2701 AD. He clings to them as his anchor to that unbelievable reality, the tangible evidence that resists the encroaching normality.
The narrator of the story, the one relaying all this to us, seems caught in the middle, doesn't he?
He is. He perfectly captures that feeling of ambiguity. The story was so fantastic and incredible, the telling so credible and sober. The time traveler was clearly traumatized, clearly believed what he was saying, but the story itself, it's just too much. It leaves you hanging.
And then the time traveler makes one final, fateful decision.
The very next day, he prepares for another journey. The narrator sees him with a small camera under one arm and a knapsack under the other. He's going back.
Why? To get proof.
That's the implication. He promises to return in half an hour with specimens and all, irrefutable evidence to silence the doubters.
But he doesn't come back in half an hour.
No. The narrator waits and waits. And the final chilling sentence tells us the time traveler vanished 3 years ago, and as everybody knows now, he has never returned. Just gone. Forever.
Leaving his fate completely unknown. It's such an open ending.
It really is. Did he overshoot? Did he land in some prehistoric era with blood-drinking hairy savages or grotesque saurians? Or, as the narrator hopefully muses, did he find a nearer future in which men are still men, but with the riddles of our own time answered? We'll never know.
It leaves you thinking about the sheer vastness and uncertainty of time, and reflecting on the time traveler's own perspective, which became pretty bleak, didn't it?
Extremely bleak. He developed the cynical view of the advancement of mankind, seeing the whole pile of civilization as just a foolish heaping that must inevitably fall back upon and destroy its makers in the end. Having seen the Eloi and Morlocks and the end of the world, it's hard to blame him.
It's a potent critique of naive optimism about progress. Just building more stuff doesn't guarantee a better future.
But the narrator offers one final, slightly more hopeful thought centered on those flowers.
Venus flowers.
Yeah. He keeps them shriveled now and brown and flat and brittle as evidence to witness that even when mind and strength had gone, gratitude and a mutual tenderness still lived on in the heart of man.
So even in the midst of decay and horror, that spark of connection, of empathy, represented by Weena giving him the flowers that survived.
That's the narrator's final comfort, that maybe some essential human quality persists, even beyond intelligence or physical strength. It's a small counterpoint to the overwhelming darkness of the time traveler's vision. A little flicker of enduring humanity. Outro.
Wow, what an incredible and frankly intense journey we've taken today on the Uncanny Valley podcast, delving into H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. From that really fascinating concept of time as a fourth dimension, all the way to the stark and frankly terrifying realities of humanity's potential distant future, This story really forces you to confront some deeply unsettling possibilities about where we might be headed.
Absolutely. The time traveler's vision, I mean, whether you read it as a prediction, a warning, maybe just a gaudy lie, as the editor called it really pushes us to think about the long-term consequences of our choices right now. Is real progress just about making life easier, eliminating all hardship, or, as the story suggests, is struggle, is challenge, somehow essential for the very things we value, like intelligence, resilience, maybe even, humanity itself?
That's the core question, isn't it? When you think about the Eloi and the Morlocks, that terrible split, and then the utter desolation at the end of the earth,
Yeah.
what does it make you wonder about our own destiny?
Yeah, will our drive for comfort and security inadvertently lead us down a path of decay, like the Eloi? Or will new challenges, things we can't even imagine yet, spark some kind of unforeseen evolution, maybe something completely different?
The questions Wells poses in this book feel just as urgent today, maybe even more so, than they did over a century ago. It's really quite timeless. Keep exploring these ideas, keep questioning. And please join us next time on the Uncanny Valley podcast for another look into the fascinating strangeness of human existence and imagination.